Math Hoppers, in this video lesson we will learn how to write linear equations in standard form. So far we have learned two forms of linear equations. We've learned point-slope form, and we've learned that it comes from just rearranging the slope formula. It is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. Remember, x sub 1 and y sub 1, those are simply the coordinates, the x and y coordinates we plug in. M is the slope, and y and x are the variables that stay variables in the equation. Then we have our favorite form, slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b form. This is the form where you can clearly see the slope and the intercept and the y-intercept just from looking at it. And today we will learn standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. It is sometimes called general form. Mostly it's called standard form. A, b, and c are whole numbers, so we're dealing with integer coefficients. No fractions, no decimals. A should be positive, and this form is really very easily used with word problems. So we will have a word problem in today's lesson. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. Notice all of your variable terms are on the left. Your constant c is on the right. A, b, and c are all real numbers, no imaginary numbers here. A, b, and c are also integers, so yay, no fractions or decimals in this form. Although the problems you're given may contain an equation that has a fraction or decimal, and then to put it in standard form, you would need to clear the fraction or the decimal. Remember, A and b can't both be 0. This really doesn't make much sense. If a and b were 0, you'd have 0x plus 0y, or 0 equals a constant. You would not have a linear equation, so that doesn't make much sense. And now I put a little asterisk here. A should be positive. This is a rule most people adhere to, where your x term or your a value should be positive. And if you wind up with an equation where a is not positive, you would just multiply all terms by -1 or divide all terms by -1. You just flip all of the signs. Pay attention to whether your professor or your teacher requires this, because it might not need to be a step that you take. I prefer to make my a term, that first x term, positive, so we'll do that in this lesson. Remember that standard form could also be called general form. Okay, so writing equations in standard form. You're often given something like y equals 3/5 x minus 2, which is a perfectly acceptable linear equation in slope-intercept form, and you're asked to write it in standard form. So the first thing you should think when you hear standard form is, okay, all integers, all whole number coefficients. So our first step is going to be to clear any and all fractions or decimals by multiplying by the common denominator of that fraction. If you were given decimals, you would multiply by whatever place value it went out to. Here we have a fraction. Luckily, we only have one fraction, so we don't have to figure out a common denominator. Remember, when you want to clear fractions from an equation, you multiply everything by the denominator, because if I were to multiply this by 5, that's 5 over 1, and the 5 divided by 5 would divide out. So to get rid of fractions, multiply by a common denominator. We only have one fraction, so we're going to multiply every single term by 5. Remember, when you make a decision to multiply in an equation, you got to multiply every term. So we're going to multiply 5 times y equals 5 times 3/5 x minus 5 times 2. Remember, 5 is really 5 divided by 1, or 5 over 1, so we're going to just cancel out or divide these 5s, which is really the whole purpose of multiplying the equation by 5. We are left with 5y equals 3x minus 10. We're still not in standard form. Remember, all variable terms have to be on the left side, constant term on the right side. So then we're going to add or subtract to get the x and y terms on the left and the constant on the right. Well, with our equation, y is already on the left, so we're going to leave that alone. -10, already on the right, leave that alone. We have to move 3x from the right side of the equation to the left side of the equation. Anytime you need to move a variable or move anything from one side of an equation to the other, you use inverse operations. The opposite of positive 3x is negative 3x, so we'll subtract 3x from both sides. Remember to put the x term before the y term. Don't write 5y minus 3x, because in standard form that x term comes first. We get -3x plus 5y equals -10. We're still not quite there, because remember, I'm going to make all of my a values positive, so we're simply going to multiply or divide all terms by -1 to have that positive x term. And remember, when we multiply by a negative, we just change every sign. We just flip every sign. So we're going to go from negative 3x plus 5y equals negative 10 to 3x minus 5y equals 10. Remember, these two forms are equivalent. If your teacher is okay with this, you may leave it like that. All right, what if you're asked to write an equation in standard form, but you're not given an equation? So you're not actually transforming one, you're writing the equation from the get-go. So here we are given, write the equation in standard form of the line that passes through the point negative 4, 2, and has a slope of negative 2. So given a point and the slope, point-slope form is the easiest form to use. That's why it's called point-slope form. It works best when you have a point and a slope. So point-slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. And with this form, you simply plug in your x-coordinate, your y-coordinate, and your slope, and simplify if you have to. But that's it. There's no calculating involved here. So our m value is negative 2. Our x sub 1 value is negative 4 because that's our x-coordinate. Y sub 1 is 2 because that's our y-coordinate. And we pop them all into our equation or into our form. And we get y minus 2 equals negative 2 times the quantity x minus negative 4. Remember, we never leave a double negative. If you subtract a negative, you're really adding a positive. So let's rewrite that as x plus 4. Now, we have an equation. It's not in standard form. So now we're going to work on getting all the variable terms to the left and the constant to the right. So to do that, we have to start with distribution. Distribute negative 2 to everything in the parentheses, negative 2 times x, and negative 2 times 4. We get y minus 2 equals negative 2 minus 8. Now what you do next is up to you. You could see that this negative 2 has to move to the right side and move that. You could also see that this negative 2x has to come over to the left side and move that. You could also do both in one step. We're going to do it step by step, one at a time, starting with x. Let's add 2x to both sides of the equation to get rid of the negative 2x on the right. So add 2x to both sides, we get 2x plus y minus 2 equals negative 8. We are still not quite in standard form because we have this negative 2, this pesky negative 2 that needs to be over here on the right. So we're going to take care of that. We're going to add 2 to both sides. When we do that, we get 2x plus y equals negative 6, and we do in fact have an equation in standard form. All right, let's talk a little bit about vertical and horizontal lines because the equation of vertical and horizontal lines are automatically in standard form. Okay, vertical lines, x equals a. Remember that vertical lines have an undefined slope, right? If you were to subtract your x-coordinates, they're all the same, so you divide by 0, and that's not okay. Let's look at a vertical line, and I'll show you what I mean. So this vertical line has an x-intercept. It crosses the x-axis at negative 4. And in fact, every single point on this line has an x-coordinate of negative 4. This is negative 4, 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. So since every single x-coordinate is the same, and every single x-coordinate is negative 4, the equation is x equals negative 4. I know a lot of people think, why does a vertical line have an x equals? Because vertical is the y-axis. Well, it crosses the x-axis. All of the x-coordinates are the same, so vertical lines are x equals equations. Now let's look at horizontal lines. Horizontal lines are y equals equations. They have a 0 slope. So let's look at one. Here we have a horizontal line. The slope is 0. It is not increasing or decreasing as we go along as x increases, right? It has a y-intercept at y equals 1. It has all of the points on this line have the same y-coordinate. We have negative 4, 1, negative 2, 1, 0, 1, 4, 1. All the y-coordinates are the same. What are they? They are 1, so my equation is y equals 1. Remember, horizontal lines have a y-intercept. All the points have the same y-coordinate. That's why it's a y equals equation. All right, you knew we'd have a word problem. So here it is. You're buying steak and chicken for a family barbecue. Steak costs $4.50 per pound. Chicken costs $2.99 per pound. We're going to write a linear equation that represents how much steak and chicken we can buy if we have exactly $60 to spend on chicken and steak. All right, first step, assign the variables. I know this is a step people don't like to take, but in order to solve this, especially when you write an equation and you get that answer, you need to know what that variable represents. So if you set it up ahead of time, so much easier. So we are solving for how much steak and how much chicken we can buy. That's going to be our variables. The number of pounds of steak is one, and the number of pounds of chicken is the other. So let's let S be the number of pounds of steak we can purchase, and C be the number of pounds of chicken we can purchase. Next step, verbal model. Think about what information are we given and what does it mean in the context of what we're being asked. Okay, so if I was going to go to the store and buy steak, the price per pound times how many pounds I bought is how they calculate how much I owe the store, right? So the price per pound of steak times the number of pounds of steak is the cost of steak. And in math language, we say 4.5 times S, or 4.5S. The price per pound is $4.50 per pound times how many pounds I buy. If I buy 1 pound, I owe the store $4.50. If I buy 2 pounds, I owe the store $9. That's how they calculate how much I owe them. Let's do the same thing for the price of chicken. Price per pound of chicken times number of pounds of chickens I buy is the cost of chicken. So that is 2.99, so $2.99 per pound times number of pounds, so $2.99C. Now, how much do I have to spend? I have $60. I want to spend exactly $60 on chicken and steak. So how is this going to be calculated? What am I going to owe the store? I am going to owe the store the cost of steak plus the cost of chicken. That will be the total amount spent. And that total amount has to be 60. So the cost of steak, we already talked about, is 4.5S. Cost of chicken, 2.99C. Total spent is 60. That's how we come up with our equation. 4.5S plus 2.99C equals 60. So you see, word problems are really very easily put into standard form. It would be a pain to put this in any other form. And that's it. That's standard form. It's really not used too often, except, of course, with word problems. And when it is super helpful. So let's go over all the forms we've learned. Slope-intercept, remember that's y equals mx plus b. That's where the slope and the y-intercept are very easily identified. We have point-slope form. That's just rearranging the slope formula. Really, really easy to use when you're given a point and the slope. And that's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We have standard or general form. ax plus by equals c. No fractions, no decimals. Works really well with word problems. Vertical lines are x equals a constant, so x equals a. And horizontal lines are y equals, or y equals a constant, so y equals b. That's it. If you have any questions on all of this, you should be subscribed to our YouTube channel. Submit those problems and I will make you a custom video solution. Till next time, Math Hoppers, take it easy.